Hari Hari Rama Rama Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari 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 Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama 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 Hari 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 Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari 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 Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari Hari. Okay, devotees, you know, we had an extra long japa session because this morning's japa was so disturbed by internet chaos and things like that. So now I have a program which anyone can stay for if they like, or go if they like. I'm going to answer questions from people. Oops, Haribol. Spasiba. Yeah, questions from people who are online with us. So there's, I think, 17 questions which I'm going to answer, which, you know, you're welcome to stay for, or you can just filter off as you choose. It's totally optional. Okay, Hare Krishna. Spasiba za общение. Haribol. До свидания. Okay. An urgent one.
He says urgent. He just said he wants to know if he can schedule you to do 3 consecutive morning classes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's okay, or would you like it spread?
Tell him I am his servant and I'll do whatever he likes. It's not a problem.
So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, sure, whatever. I can do class every day, but I can also do sometimes on weekends if he wants. But, you know, even Monday, Monday we often have an executive committee call, but that the time of that can be changed also, if Monday is better for him.
I'll speak to you. I'll see what options you have.
Okay.
I just want to let you know, during the week I have a schedule, so around 6 o'clock I go around the moat jogging and stuff like that. But if I'm not doing any jogging or something, maybe I can stay and listen to your class and stuff like that.
In the evening.
Yeah, towards the evening, like during the day I take a rest. So, like around 6 o'clock I start doing some jogging and stuff like that. So,
I see.
yeah.
Well, what I do, I read Prabhupada Lilamrita. I make a few comments, but it's definitely more reading. I chant japa from 4:30 to 5:30.
Yeah.
Anyone's welcome to come, Monday to Friday. On the weekends it varies, but then 5:30 to 6:30 or so, I read Prabhupada Lilamrita and make a few comments, and anyone's welcome to come.
And one thing to Lakshmi was complaining about that thing outside where like the workers they climb and like to do the thing. Not the police. They are police. He was talking about it. So some thieves from outside they come and break into the temple yard and stuff like that. So he was worried about in case like the guys come and climb
Over where?
onto the scaffold, that ladder thing.
Which ladder?
The scaffolding.
He's talking about the scaffoldings, Maharaj,
Which ones?
that they use used for painting, you know, they climb up and paint.
Yeah.
So they got around the building. So this, because of previous experience here, they do climb up and come to the windows and doors if it's open, you know.
Okay. There's scaffolding here?
Yes, Guruji.
There is.
Yeah, but I spoke to Ravana Pashapu earlier on, and he said no, he'll make some arrangements to take that thing out.
Okay, yeah, if it's not needed. I see. Okay, well, we keep, it's all locked.
It's all locked, but apparently maybe later on they may going to put a bugler guard.
Okay.
Yeah. I spoke to Rasbihari Prabhu, and he said no, maybe later on they may put a bugler guard or something.
Here.
Yeah, for your safety and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Maharaj, I just wanted to find out, do you require a tulsi plant for you?
That'd be nice.
Okay, we'll try to get the stand first. I don't know how you'll put it in the corner or where.
Somewhere. I don't know where, but somewhere by here.
I'll speak to Devada or what.
Okay,
The stand.
that's nice. Okay. Hare Krishna. So are we ready, Ajahn Charan Prabhu, for the question?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Actually, we're already online.
We're waiting, yeah. Okay, here we go. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripas sindhubhya evacha, patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So devotees, sorry to keep you waiting, but we have, it appears, 17 questions, okay? So we will now try to answer these questions. First question. Can I wear tulsi beads if I am not initiated? I was told I can wear 3 rounds of tulsi beads before initiation. So that's the first 2 questions, actually. First question, okay. Yes, you should wear tulsi beads if you're not initiated. You know, if you're a devotee, if you're trying to be a devotee, then you should wear, in fact, basically you must wear, really, tulsi neck beads. But for devotees who are not initiated, the system is, which is basically given by Srila Prabhupada, the system is that uninitiated devotees wear either 1 or 2 rounds of tulsi beads, neck beads, and then when they're initiated, then they get new neck beads, usually 3, but they can be 5 rounds. Prabhupada mentioned how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used 5 rounds sometimes. Prabhupada himself generally used 3 rounds. But for uninitiated, 1 or 2 is what is normally done, definitely. And it's best to do like that. 2, my mind is too distracted while I'm chanting my rounds. I try to concentrate, but after 10 to 15 minutes, it again gets distracted. I'm unable to focus my mind continuously. What should I do? So that's our second question. You know, the first thing that you should do is you should keep chanting. don't give up. You know, of course we're well aware, we're all deeply conditioned. You know, just what we've been through in this lifetime is plenty of conditioning. But actually we've been in this material world for nobody knows how many lifetimes, but many, many, many. And so there's a lot of conditioning, going deep into our being, into the subtle body actually. So it takes time. It takes time to cleanse that out through the practice of Krishna consciousness. So what you're experiencing is not something unusual at all. If anything, I'd say it happens to the great majority, if not all, devotees, particularly in the earlier stages. But we should, the least we should do is try to carry on. But there are certain things which can be done which do help with the concentration and keeping focused. One thing which really helps, and you may have noticed I do it myself every day, and I have been doing for years now, even before COVID actually, when I was traveling, I chant with other devotees online now and in person also now. But when I was traveling going back, through up till the end of 2019 or maybe February 2020, when I was traveling, wherever I was, I'd always call the devotees to come and chant japa with me in the mornings, particularly because I really find it helps a lot. But there are other things you can do too. I mean, particularly if you're on your own, which, of course, quite a number of you, I'm sure, are on your own. You're living on your own, or you're the only devotee in the family, so you're sort of on your own spiritually. There's certain things that anyone can do to help with their chanting, even if they're on their own. First thing I said, well, keep going, but then it's nice to chant with other devotees. But then should try and chant in a sacred place. Means if you're on your own, if you have your own altar, even just with pictures, that's okay. See, that's what we have here. We have our own altar with pictures. So you can chant in front of the altar and you can gaze on the pictures, and that way you engage your eyes in the japa chanting process. So that's a nice thing to do. Of course, it's very helpful to get up early and take a nice bath and put on clean clothes, because then you're more in the mode of goodness. Yes, but then you should keep particularly if you're on your own, keep a recording of Srila Prabhupada chanting japa. Keep that playing softly, because you have to hear your chanting. You don't just simply listen to Prabhupada's chanting, but to have Prabhupada in the background there, softly chanting, that helps. It really helps a lot. Then, like I said, a sacred place in front of an altar, but you can have also pictures of Krishna, and Krishna conscious pictures around on the walls. And for chanting, well, I mentioned getting up early because the time it's the Brahma Muhurta, it's a very sattvic time. So these are, and you can join a Skype Japa conference, or you can join our Zoom Japa conferences or our Facebook, the online Japa programs with devotees. Another thing which will really help if you have the opportunity is to participate in a Japa retreat, or like a Japa seminar, that sort of thing. These types of programs are held online these days. They used to be done in person. I've done so many Japa retreats with devotees. And there you're with a whole group of devotees and you're hearing about the importance of chanting, techniques, and what to do, what not to do, and there's practice chanting together and other devotees listening to your chanting, giving advice on how you can improve your chanting. So these are different things which anyone can do pretty much, at least most of those things. And that will really help you with your chanting. Okay, so here we go, question number 3. I have read Bhagavad Gita. As I'm new to Krishna consciousness, what books of Srila Prabhupada should I read as a newcomer other than Bhagavad Gita? Okay, and then you've got another question, is do we need a teacher or spiritual master to guide us through the book? So the first part, Prabhupada has written many books, and they're all just amazing, wonderful, and it's so beneficial to read them, just massively beneficial. So you read Bhagavad Gita. I don't know if you managed to sort of follow everything, but generally what we recommend, and particularly I recommend for people who are really new, is to read a book like Science of Self-Realization. There's 2 or 3 books of a similar nature. One is Journey of Self-Discovery, but the classic is Science of Self-Realization. And it is, it's all from Srila Prabhupada, but it's Prabhupada addressing different topical issues, like, well, you've mentioned about a spiritual master. Prabhupada talks about accepting a spiritual master, what it involves, the value like that. He even talks about, for Westerners, a subject which is really a very important subject for so many, is what's the relationship between Krishna and Christ. For Westerners, that's, with so many people, it's going to be very helpful because Prabhupada explains very nicely about it. What is reincarnation? What is karma? Basically, Prabhupada's discussing very foundational principles and aspects of Krishna consciousness. So for newcomers to get that like really those focused explanations of these foundational things from Prabhupada himself It's really helpful. So I'd suggest reading that. And then maybe the other one I mentioned, Journey of Self-Discovery, maybe some of the smaller books of Prabhupada's, something like Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers is a very nice book. Chant and Be Happy, Prabhupada discussing about the chanting of the holy names. And after you've read a few of those books, then you could revisit Bhagavad Gita. As I say, I don't know if you were able to follow everything in Bhagavad Gita. Then, another thing which would be very beneficial would be to participate in a seminar on Bhagavad Gita. Because, even if you were able to follow Bhagavad Gita, which a lot of new people, they really struggle to do. But even if you were able to follow, and you basically got the idea, but to be guided through it by a senior devotee who's experienced and who's, very conversant with these things is really extremely helpful, eye-opening, which, brings us to the second question. Do we need a teacher or a spiritual master to guide us through the book? The thing is, well, first of all, the answer is yes. But the thing is that Prabhupada is our ultimate spiritual master. And if you're reading our Bhagavad Gita as it is, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, then Prabhupada is there with all his explanations in the purports. So you're already reading it under a spiritual master. But then, like I said, it's very helpful, even for people who have read Bhagavad Gita and sort of basically got the idea. So helpful to take a seminar where there's in-depth, step-by-step discussion and explanation of Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, just in the broad sense, not just in regards to coming to grips with Bhagavad Gita, but in the much broader sense of life in Krishna consciousness, as Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, having a spiritual master is essential. That sort of guide through all the, through the journey of life in Krishna consciousness. It's quite a journey usually. So to have that person there to help you as you move along, that's just invaluable. So basically Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you look at chapter 4, verse 34, Krishna says everyone should accept a spiritual master just to help them through life in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Here's another one, number 4. Who gets attracted to material things? Is it the body or the soul? Or is it the mind? That's another thing you could ask. Well, you know what? It's a combination. But at the bottom of it, right at the root of it all, is the soul, the person. The person wants to enjoy. But they generally want to enjoy in terms of the type of body they have. So a human body, they want to enjoy in human ways, which are different, at least in many certain respects, from many of the animals they want to enjoy in some ways in principle the same, but other ways they live differently. Animals generally, or many animals, they don't want a nice house. They don't want nice clothes. They don't so much have culture and these types of expressions. To eat, sleep, mate, and defend, that's all in common with the humans. But otherwise, humans and animals are different in many ways. And so, but it's the soul who wants to enjoy independently from Krishna, but that is generally expressed through the particular type of body, the species, male or female, all these different aspects of the conditioned life of the living entity, manifested and expressed in those ways. So ultimately the body and the mind, they're just facilitating the fundamental, foundational material desires which are coming from the soul. It's interesting in Narottam Das Thakur's song Gauranga Bolite Habe. He says, Ar kabe nitai chand, karuna hoibe, samsara vasana more, kabe tucha habe. When will I get the mercy of Lord Nityananda? And then he answers the question, I will know I've got the mercy of Lord Nityananda when I see that my samsara vasana, kabe tucha habe, has become just like nothing practically, insignificant. So samsara vasana refers to material desires, but they're very, very foundational material desires. Like just the tendency to identify with the body in every species, that's there. So that's a samsara vasana, fundamental material desire. Whereas, for example, in the human species, for a human male to become attracted to a human female, that's a species-specific desire. But the propensity to become attracted to the opposite sex in whatever species, that's a samsara vasana, fundamental, foundational type of material attraction, as opposed to an attraction which is just in terms of the immediate situation, the particular type of body or psychology that you have. Yeah. So yeah, the propensity to become materially attracted, to enjoy material things, that's coming from the soul. It's all part of the desire to enjoy independent from Krishna. But in what way to enjoy independently? Well, that may also depend on the species, the particular type of material situation you're in. Let's see. Number 5. As a devotee, we have adequate information about our existence as a spirit soul, but we still fear death. Why? Yes, because even though you may have sufficient information or knowledge of a particular thing, doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to follow that. Particularly if your material desires are strong, then I know there's so many people who are alcoholics, they're addicted to drinking liquor because of the experience. They get some experience from it, which is really, they're really impressed by it, and they're really attached to it. But so many of those alcoholics know that it's destroying them. And therefore, many of them, they try to stop. So they may go to Alcoholics Anonymous or some other thing, some rehabilitation type of place to try and get out of it. But I was just reading maybe a week ago the experience of an alcoholic, or drugs, I think it was alcoholic. And he joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and he paid £13,000, which is $250,000. It's actually a little more than $250,000 for a 1 month rehabilitation program with following they call it the 12-step process of Alcoholics Anonymous. He paid a little more than R250,000 for that, because he was doing very badly, and he knew he was in very bad shape. But then he got through the whole thing, just 1 month, R250,000. Isn't that amazing? He got through the month, and it helped him, and he stayed, shall we say, clean for 1 year. Although for that whole year he was in anxiety. It wasn't like, I've gotten over it. He was, always in anxiety. If he meets a person, should I spend time with the person because, they may lead me astray, or should I go to this event? Or he was in anxiety all the time. And then after a year, he went back into it. Yeah. So, yeah. A very important point, which is there in Krishna consciousness, is that our choices of what to do and what not to do. Of course, if a person is intelligent and strong enough internally, then, they can take control of themselves and their lives. But a lot of people aren't that intelligent, and definitely a lot are not that strong. So what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is that we need, through Krishna consciousness, we need to get a higher taste. If you get a higher taste, then whatever it is, you were attracted to, some undesirable thing. But if you get a higher taste, better experience from something else, then it's nothing to give up the lower thing. You're happy to give it up because you're getting something higher, and you can see that this other thing, like alcohol in this case, it's just, it's just not worth the trouble at all. So that's very important, very important. Otherwise, when I was young, I studied philosophy in university for a little while, just a few months actually, maybe 3 or 4 months. And there was one philosopher, British, very famous, who I studied a bit, Bertrand Russell. And he was famous for having a smoking habit, which he battled with for years, on and off, on and off. And he tried all sorts of ways of giving it up, but he couldn't. So it's all a bit of a long story. He was kind of like a popular figure, even though he's a philosopher. He was a popular figure. He was sort of like a pop philosopher, but actually he was a serious, very serious philosopher. But he was just very sort of a cool cat, sort of. He was very clever the way he'd present things. So it was well known that he had a smoking problem. And one time when he was being interviewed, the interviewer, being a little cheeky, said, Mr. Russell, do you have any advice for people who want to give up smoking? And Bertrand Russell replied, sure, it's easy. I've done it many times. So, and believe me, in material terms, he was really intelligent. He was really a brilliant person. He wrote an essay which he presented as he read on radio, because in those days there was only radio, called Why I Am Not a Christian. It's very interesting. And it's also got some pretty stupid things in it too, actually, when you understand Krishna consciousness. So yeah, those are some thoughts. It's oftentimes not as much a matter of your knowledge, your understanding. Of course, those are all very important. But if there's no higher taste, then you can't resist the lower taste for long if you're really habituated to it. Number 6, do we have to chant on beads only after we take bath and clean, or any time? Well, no, any time. Of course, at least you should wash your hands, because the beads are sacred, so we should treat them with respect. And cleanliness is next to godliness. If you're really dirty, then it affects your state of mind, and it will be more difficult to chant nicely. Whereas if you're more in the mode of goodness, clean, feeling refreshed and clear-headed and like that, like after a good night's sleep and having got up nice and early and had a nice bath and put on clean clothes like that, then the chanting and all spiritual things are much easier. Because you are more in the mode of goodness, whereas dirtiness is mode of ignorance. And mode of ignorance is just very sort of dull and not nice. But the thing is, you should chant 24 hours a day if you can, at least as much of the time. Whenever you get a spare moment, chant. When we see devotees falling to illness and death, it shakes our faith in Krishna. How to not let that happen? Well, the thing is that these material bodies are going to die sooner or later anyway. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. And, even Srila Prabhupada, he left this world, he passed away 77, November 14th, and he was, he was 80 or 81, maybe 81. Other people, some people my mother lived to 91. She was not a devotee, though. So you might say, well, why didn't Prabhupada live an extra 10 years? Or some lived to 100. Why didn't Prabhupada live to 100? Well, you know, for the devotees, Krishna has a plan. So Prabhupada was with us for 81 years. Then Krishna felt, let's move on. And that's what happened. But Prabhupada's with us in spirit, if we remember him and serve him. And other devotees, just, you know, anyone, you or me or whoever, Krishna has his plan for us also. Yeah, Krishna has his plan. So we have to be able to accept that and carry on. And, you know, not lose faith when a devotee passes away. Take it as Krishna's plan. Take it also as an educational event, Krishna's teaching that you're also going to pass away, so you've got to prepare. Look at it like that, and don't simply be attached to the thought that, you know, the people I like, they must just live on and on and on. And if they don't live on and on and on, then I'll lose faith in Krishna. It's a bit silly. So we have to learn to take it as Krishna's arrangement and let Krishna deal with these things. And ourselves, we have to be fixed in Krishna consciousness ourselves and know that my time is going to come sooner or later. And when other devotees pass away, it's just making it more and more clear to me about my own situation. Number 8, what does bliss in Krishna consciousness feel like? How's that? Well, I think you need to get some, and then you'll know. But you know, one thing that you can say is that it's great, great pleasure, happiness, joy, which is not coming from some just material stimulation. Yeah, it's coming through connection with Krishna. That's where it's coming from. Through your having been engaged in some Krishna conscious activity. Yes. So there you go. So I would suggest you really try to chant very attentively. Take part in kirtan with other devotees. Kirtan's one of the best things for getting bliss. And yeah, get into some really nice kirtan and become absorbed. And then you'll understand. You'll begin to understand what is bliss. It's been suggested that here in our little place here, we have kirtan on Friday nights. Arjuna Charan Prabhu suggested. I think it's a pretty good idea. Anyway, let's see. But, yeah. I remember we were having kirtans when I was here last. That was really nice. Really nice. So 9, is it necessary to chant in the morning, or can I chant during the day? You know, if you're referring to your main chanting, like if you're doing 16 rounds, the early morning is the best time, as I already mentioned, because the atmosphere, and you, for that matter, are in the best condition. If you've had a good night's sleep and you had a nice bath, etc., you're in the best condition for chanting, and early in the morning's the best time. However, If for any reason you're not able to do that, or maybe at least you cannot finish all your rounds early in the morning, then just at least get them done. You've got 24 hours to do 16 rounds. At least get them done. But as much as possible, try and chant in the morning. Okay, 10. This is a bit of a, it's not exactly a clear question, or, yeah. How many types of karmas are there? Now, there are different ways we could answer that. But in Bhagavad Gita, 3 types of karmic situations are mentioned. Let me just mention them. One is called just karma, another is called vikarma, and the other is called akarma. So these are 3 sorts of states in relation to karma. So just the basic one, karma, means materialistic activity. Actually, classically, according to Bhagavad Gita, it means materialistic activity done according to the standards, the directions of Scripture. But it's materialistic. Yes. Like, we're in the month, the lunar month of Caitanya. In this month, young girls, young ladies who are not married from they're in Vedic traditions, they many times, and in Krishna's pastimes, the unmarried gopis, they worshipped the demigoddess Caitanya in order to get good husbands, or with the gopis to get Krishna as their husband. But the other, like the ordinary young girls, they may worship Caitanya, who's a form of Durga, in order to get good husbands. So it's materialistic to get a good husband who can provide money and whatnot. That's definitely materialistic. But it's materialistic, it's religious materialism. So that is what the term karma in this context, as described in Bhagavad Gita, that's what it's referring to. It can also be, the term can be used in other ways, but this is the sense here. Then vikarma means very materialistic, like very sinful and very gross, illicit materialistic activities. Like, instead of worshipping Caitanya to get a good husband, a young girl may just go to the discotheque and the bars and just try to pick up some guy and engage in illicit sex with the hope that the guy will marry her. So that's a vikarma approach to the same idea of these girls worshipping Caitanya to get good husbands. So vikarma means very impious and grossly materialistic activity, which is not done according to the directions of Scripture. Then akarma means activity done for the pleasure of Krishna. So akarma means without karma. There's no karma. So these are the 3 kind of aspects of karma, you could say, as described in Bhagavad Gita. 11, how to surrender to Krishna. What is the process and when is it complete? How to surrender to Krishna? Well, join ISKCON and follow the programs and the process of Krishna consciousness as presented by Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, which basically means as Prabhupada presented it. That surrender, instead of just doing what you want, do what Krishna wants. Do what the great devotee wants. That's Prabhupada. Practice Krishna consciousness following Prabhupada. And when is it complete? It just goes on. It's indefinitely. It never comes to a point where it's complete in the sense of, now I've finished. Like, when you're at school or at university, you do a degree course and then it's finished. And that's it. So in Krishna consciousness doesn't work like that. But you come to the level of perfection when you enter your eternal relationship with Krishna. But then you just go deeper and deeper and deeper into that relationship, and there's no end to it. Number 12, how to overcome lust, anger, greed, and envy. A simple answer, which is, I would say, probably the most appropriate answer, is just what I said about the previous question. Just join ISKCON. If you're a family person, try and get the family involved like this. You don't have to come and live in a temple. Of course, if you're a younger person and you've got no commitments like that, you can also do that. But follow the process of Krishna consciousness. In one sense, Prabhupada says, you can engage lust by becoming married in Krishna consciousness. You can engage anger by not appreciating those who are envious of Krishna consciousness and who hate Krishna. And what else? Greed. You can be greedy, that I want to get more into Krishna consciousness. I want to chant more. I want to chant better. This is a type of spiritual greed. And envy, that's a bit more difficult. We shouldn't be envious, but rather we should appreciate those who are more fortunate than us. But generally, you've got to be careful. Lust, so okay, I'll get married, then I can express my lust. And people who don't like Krishna consciousness, I'll just become angry, I'll beat them up and all that sort of thing. You've got to be careful about that. So therefore, best is to follow the process properly. And lust, anger, greed, envy, they'll become cleansed out and purified. And, to whatever degree they may be there in your life, you'll be able to keep them under control. 13, how to choose a spiritual master. Well, first thing is that Srila Prabhupada is a spiritual master for all of us. We should know that. And we should worship Prabhupada and really hear from Prabhupada and take Prabhupada seriously and take getting the instructions of Prabhupada seriously. That's a fact. But then also, like we mentioned, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:34 that everyone should accept a spiritual master, meaning a living spiritual master also, a personal guide. Everyone should do that because it helps to have a personal guide. A person who knows you and who you know and you can communicate with, and who can communicate with you and help you in practical ways. Because each one of us is an individual, each one of us has our particular personality and our needs and our strengths and weaknesses and all that. So to have a spiritual master who can help you in these personal ways, not simply in just the broad general ways, that helps. As Srila Prabhupada said about the person Bhagavat as opposed to the book Bhagavat. Book Bhagavat means Srimad Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavat means a great devotee, very advanced devotee. They're both Bhagavats, but one's a book Bhagavat, one's a person Bhagavat. Prabhupada said that the person Bhagavat is more important than the book. Prabhupada said, because the person Bhagavat can pull your ear and tell you, hey, what you doing? Whereas the book Bhagavat, you can always close it if it says something you don't like and just put it away. So it's more, the relationship is generally more dynamic with the person Bhagavat or spiritual master. 14, in one of the classes, I heard that the soul and intelligence travel together. So how is it that we forget our past deeds? Well, I don't think that's a very clear question, because we're here right now, soul and intelligence right now at this moment, but we forget things. So it's not surprising. I mean, it's a fact that from one lifetime to another, the soul goes from one body to another, gross body. But the subtle body goes also. Mind, intelligence, and a sense of ego, false ego. That goes with the soul from the gross body when the gross body dies into the next gross body. But, like we said, forgetting, I've been talking for the last, quite a while actually, about 45 minutes. How many of you can remember everything I've said? Nobody. I can't even. And it's forgetfulness. We're prone to forget. So it's not surprising that after the incredible trauma of death, and then some period in between, in a sort of in-between state, and then being put into the body of some just little baby, it's not surprising that we forget. Okay, so now we have 3 more questions, which just came in. Just a sec. Oops. Oh, okay, here they are. All right. I started chanting the Hare Krishna mantra a few days back. I have not been sleeping properly for the past few months. What I noticed the first day after chanting that night, I slept like a baby. Is it possible that it was because of chanting that I slept so peacefully? Yes, I mean, you seem to be the proof of it. But yes, chanting, if it's done nicely, attentively, with focus, it definitely pacifies your sort of psychology, your emotions, and your thinking, and whatever disturbances might be there in your thinking processes, they definitely become pacified. I mean, there are, degrees of that. It depends on the quality of your chanting. And of course, as you chant more over a period of time, then the quality improves step by step. But yes, as a simple answer to your question, I'd say that it's because you're chanting. And the better you chant, the more peaceful you'll become, and your sleep will become better too. I guess this is the same person, is it? Anyway, I don't know. I also experienced a sharp headache for a few days, or I experienced a sharp headache for a few days when I started chanting the mantra. This headache was localized particularly on the left-hand side of my head. This headache is similar to the headaches that I experience when I detox. Is it possible that this could have been caused by the mantra? That's a bit of a strange question. You know, I would not expect it. I would not expect it. You know, Prabhupada, right in the beginning in New York, yeah, when he was dealing with hippie drug people, one girl told Prabhupada that when I chant Hare Krishna, I see red lights flashing in front of my eyes. What should I do? And Srila Prabhupada, he didn't get into, trying to evaluate the situation. Prabhupada just said, just keep chanting. Do not worry. It will go away. So, yeah, it may be you were straining when you were chanting. I don't know. But I would say, don't worry about it too much. Just keep chanting. It'll definitely go away. Okay, here's our last question. If I'm in a public place, such as a library with people around and next to me, and I want to sound the mantra or chant the mantra, could I sound the mantra silently? Yes. Yes, because you don't want to, you've got to be sensitive to other people. You don't want to just be like culturally, I don't know, what would you say? Not a show-off, but culturally insensitive, and just sort of impose yourself on other people. Even though to give other people the chanting of Hare Krishna is very nice, but if you chant in a library where there's other people, if you chant audibly, you're probably going to disturb some people, and they'll probably throw you out of the library, actually. So yes, you can chant silently in your mind when there's a certain situation in which chanting out loud might well irritate people and cause, some sort of reaction from them of, expressing their dissatisfaction like that. Hare Krishna. Those are our questions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.